So,
we're so glad to have you with us. We'll get started after the room populates. We're just going to wait a few minutes for that to happen. Jan, I think you can go ahead and get started.
Great, everyone. So welcome. This is the first edition of the Equal Access Book Club. The publication of the first edition of the Guide to Assisting Students with Disabilities, Equal Access in Health Science and Professional Education in 2015 turned out to be a very helpful guide to all of those who are working with students with disabilities in health science and professional education. But doesn't 2015 seem like a lifetime ago? Since then, so much more has been written about students with disabilities, accommodations, and ways of thinking about disability as part of diversity.
moreover, under the leadership of such organizations like AHEAD and the Coalition for Disability Access in Health Science Education, communities of disability resource professionals were able to learn from each other. The publication of this second edition, now named Equal Access for Students with Disabilities, the Guide for Health Science and Professional Education, builds upon the first edition while being informed of the tremendous amount of thinking, writing, and research that has emerged over the past few years.
So again, this is the first of 11 monthly meetings to cover the main chapters in the Equal Access book. And it's an exciting and new way to dive into this book and to learn from each other. John McGough and I co-wrote the first chapter in the first edition, as well in the revised edition. I might mention under the superb eyes, and more importantly, the astute comments and corrections of our editors, Lisa Meeks, Neera Jain, and Elisa Laird. There really is nothing better than good editors. The premise of this chapter in the book is somewhat similar to that page you might see at the beginning when you read a play. There's usually a list of characters or a dramatis personae page or characters of the drama. And we all know there are a lot of characters in the drama that's on campus. So we wanted to explore the various people and offices a student with a disability might encounter on campus, and which people or groups on campus could be helpful to our students that they might not even be aware of. Our aim was to set the stage for thinking broadly about working with students with disabilities and to think about how various stakeholders on campus can learn about disability resource professionals and how they can help students.
Well, Joe, since you mentioned the dramatis personae, the characters of the drama, we might as well introduce ourselves since we've been talking for a while.
Well, it's a very good point. I'm Joe.
And I'm Nichole.
And that was very simple. Maybe too simple.
True. I'm Nichole Taylor, and I'm an associate professor of clinical anesthesiology and the assistant dean of student affairs at Wake Forest School of Medicine. My career was impacted when I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis 11 years ago, and I shifted my clinical efforts into education, advocacy, and career advising through my role as the associate residency program director for anesthesiology and the assistant dean.
So I got involved in disabilities work when I was the associate dean of student affairs at Weill Cornell Medical College. Prior to that, my background was as a psychiatrist who worked at our hospital's HIV/AIDS clinic for 10 years. And then I was a medical student educator running our medical school's first year doctoring course. As an associate dean of student affairs, disability services was one of my many jobs within that purview, and it was completely new to me. And I had a crash course in this with some mentoring from Lisa Meeks, with members of the coalition, with a particularly fantastic listserv that the coalition runs, and with my then colleague at Cornell University, Kathy Fahey, who has since moved on to University of Chicago. And I will say Cornell's loss is truly Chicago's gain with Kathy Fahey.
As we mentioned earlier, the second edition of the book, Equal Access for Students with Disabilities, would not exist without the fantastic editors, Lisa Meeks, Mira Jane, and Elisa Laird. And there are many who have contributed to this book, and we are really grateful for all the authors who are listed here on this slide.
Also, the Equal Access Book Club series would not exist without the support of several key groups. AHEAD, the Association on Higher Education and Disability, in particular for their assistance in the Zoom platform, has just been invaluable. The Coalition, designated interpreters who are doing the captioning today, and Springer Publications, the publisher. And we are grateful for their support of this novel way to explore the second edition of Equal Access for Students with Disabilities.
So thinking back to our pre-COVID era, we might have typically thought of a book club as a group of people gathered in one location with some snacks, appetizers, small plate tapas, desserts, and more, and usually some interesting beverages, sometimes to help liven up the conversation. We defer the choice of food and beverage to you, but we do want to encourage everyone to be civil and respectful, and mostly encourage participation and support for each other as we navigate the multiple perspectives of our audience so we can learn from one another and grow as a community. As moderators, our goal is to pose some questions based on the first chapter of the book, Know Your Campus Resources, and to facilitate a discussion. So the added characters in this drama are all of you. The best way to engage in this discussion on Zoom is by using the raise hand function. If you do that, we can then unmute you to speak. Another option is to post a comment in the chat function. Questions to the moderators can be placed in the Q&A feature as well. We would love to hear from as many who are comfortable joining in and sharing their thoughts, their experiences, and their wisdom.
So why don't we practice? Let's start off with a question. Today is actually Martin Luther King's birthday, January 15th. We celebrate the holiday on Monday. Is there anyone in the audience whose birthday is in January? If so, and if you're willing to say hello to us, raise your hand and we will call on you and unmute you for you to say hello and for us to wish you a happy birthday.
So there's 4 people that have raised their hand, Joe.
Oh, wow. Is it Rana Nash? I'm going to allow you to talk if you'd be willing to say hello. I don't know if I was able to unmute your...
I think I just did it.
Hey, happy birthday. When is your birthday, Rana?
It's January 24th.
Okay, everybody write that down in your calendar.
Yes, remember it.
Rana, you officially now know how to mute and unmute. And so if we like run into a dead space, we might just call on you randomly. I'm kidding, we will not.
That's fine.
Happy soon to be birthday.
Thank you very much.
Stacy Wolf. Let's see if we can get you to unmute.
Hello, can you
Hey,
hear
is
me?
this Stacy?
It is
Hey, Stacy, when is your birthday?
on the 27th.
27th. Okay, again, write that down as well. Well, happy soon to be birthday.
Thank
Any
you.
problems? Any problems with the raise hand function and being called on?
No, sir.
Awesome, great, thank you. Who else do we have? Is it Maria Keller? Let's see. Maria, are you there?
I am here.
Hey,
So
Maria.
my birthday is the January 19th. So I always got a 3-day weekend for my birthday, thanks to Martin Luther King.
That's wonderful, wonderful. Well, happy soon to be birthday.
Thank you.
Were there any other? Was it 3 of them? Yeah. All right, so that's the main way to communicate with us if you're willing to do that, because really, this is not a lecture, this is a discussion group, it's a book club. And so we really want to just be able to call on as many people as possible. The other way you could participate is through the chat function, and you could post a comment to everyone if you want to do that rather than raise your hand. The only downside of that would be that there might be like a bit of a time delay for us reading them and picking that up, but you're welcome to do that. And if you have a specific question for any of the moderators or any problems or anything, you can contact us directly through the Q&A section and we'll be able to see that. All right, well, I think we're ready to start.
Okay, so we came here for a book club, so let's have a book club. So I'm doing this from my home office, so let's pretend we're in my living room, sitting around in the pre-6 foot apart era, sipping beverages and snacking on a nice mixture of potlucks, appetizers, and desserts. And we're ready to discuss the book. So we have some prompting questions like you see on your screen right here. So as you hear or read the question, take another few sips of your beverage and think about how this applies to you and your campus. So disability resource professionals work collaboratively with other offices on the campus to ensure full and equal access for students with disabilities. To ensure appropriate referrals and collaboration across offices, describe the specific roles of the following offices in supporting the work of the Disability Office regarding health science or professional programs. So these would be like the ADA Section 504 Coordinator, EEO Office, Title IX Coordinator, Risk Management, and General Counsel Office.
So thanks, Nichole, for framing this. So let's put this out to our book club members. What interface with these offices have you had when working with students with disabilities? And feel free to raise your hand and we will call.
Cindy Poor raised her hand.
Let's see. For some reason, the hand raising doesn't go to the top for me. Let me see. Who was the one who raised the hand, Jan? Or would you be able to unmute them?
Cindy Poor Parisi.
Jan, that Cindy may have raised her hand accidentally and put it down immediately. Cindy, if that's not the case, if you could re-raise your hand, it would be great. If it was just an error, we're all set.
She raised her.
Ah, there she is.
Hey, Cindy.
Hi. So I interface often with Title IX. Our Title IX coordinator happens to be my supervisor. And we talk often in regards to folks that she comes across that report incidents that may need disability support. Because there's a lot of crossover between disability and issues that surround Title IX. We also run into just the reverse, where I have students referred to me who are pregnant and not necessarily disabled, who I refer back to the Title IX coordinator, who then helps to implement any accommodations that may be needed for that person.
So it sounds like you have a nice relationship, mainly because it's your supervisor, so it's pretty close. That's great.
Yes.
And one of the things I forgot to mention is if people are comfortable saying where they're working or where they work at, what school. Cindy?
Sure, I'm Director for Disability Services for Rutgers Biomedical and Health Sciences Schools.
Fantastic.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Others with Title IX or other offices that they've had encounters with? Let's see. Brian Hilbert. Let's see, Brian, are you able to speak?
Can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. So I work with all of those offices on at least a monthly basis. So I'm the director of the Disability Resource Center at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. We have a whole plethora of health science programs, including a medical school, PT, OT, etc. And I think the way that we work with them, so actually I don't know that we have an assigned 504 coordinator, but I work with our EEO office because we will often staff issues where somebody is in a dual role as a student and as an employee, and we'll say, okay, which pieces of this accommodation are best handled by my office on almost the student side, which aspects of these accommodations are best handled by the EEO folks on the employee side, and so a lot of times it's that joint discussion and figuring out who's going to handle what. I have talked to risk management, though not in a regular basis. A lot of times when things come up that might be risk oriented, it's a discussion between my office, my institution, and a clinical placement site. So we're often just having discussions with the folks at the site. What's appropriate? What are your concerns? This is what we feel needs to happen, and then figuring out how to get that done. And then general counsel, like I said, I work with them at least on a monthly basis to either make sure that we're not out of compliance or addressing various concerns.
That's fantastic. So you have a presence really with all of these different groups for multiple different functions. It looks like Maria Keller. How about your experience?
It's very similar to the gentleman speaking. I mean, my role, I'm the Associate Director for the Student Disability Resource Center at the University of California, Riverside. So we have education programs on the spectrum, including our medical education program. So yeah, even for the 504 coordinator, we have a standing meeting that's biweekly just to check in. But more specifically to the medical school students, and we often consult with the Title IX, risk management, and counsel is available on demand, and not just the university general counselor, but the one that's assigned to the medical school. So we have a very good working and supportive relationship. So it's great to have the option of, I mean, picking up the phone and calling someone, but nowadays it's more like just scheduling a quick Zoom meeting. So that's worked very well for us so far.
Great, that's fantastic, Maria, thank you. So a lot of people have had, it sounds like, the ability to interface with a lot of these other kind of important offices, and more importantly, that they know who you are as well. It sounds like, again, as Cindy said at the beginning, sometimes the referrals go both ways. It might be Title IX reaching out to disabilities as opposed to the other way around. So I think that's fantastic, and that's kind of a great way to sort of establish basic lines of communications for when you need to. We can go on to question 2. So question 2, disability resource professionals rely on campus leaders, department staff, and faculty to refer students who may need accommodations to the disability office.
Which campus stakeholders are most likely to encounter these students, and how can DRPs ensure they fully understand the policies and processes associated with student disclosure of disability and effective referral practices?
So this is almost a follow-up to the thing I think Cindy had mentioned before, which is, you know, for good reasons, her Title IX coordinator knew how to refer a student in need to the Disability Services Office. How can disability resource professionals ensure that these various other offices know how to refer students and make effective referrals? It's like Audrey.
Yes, hi.
Hey.
I'm not actually part of our Disabilities Resources for Students office. I'm an academic coach for the Physician Assistant Training Program at the University of Washington School of Medicine. And I'm speaking up because I feel like our Disabilities Resources office has done a really excellent job of communicating with us. So I'm the main person in our program that helps to facilitate the accommodations, get the students referred to DRS, and then also to make sure that the accommodations the students have are implemented appropriately. And we have a access coordinator at the DRS office who has been so excellent in scheduling meetings with us to talk with our head faculty members and staff about the policies, talk about how the timing works and how to refer students, and then have follow-up conversations about how do we handle the more intricate student cases where they're maybe looking for accommodations on physical exam items that are a little more challenging. So I just feel like that one-on-one communication with our program has been invaluable.
That's fantastic, Audrey. Thank you. Thanks. Looks like Stacy.
Hello again. So I work at San Juan College in Farmington, New Mexico. I'm the academic fieldwork coordinator for our occupational therapy assistant program. And for us, I mean, obviously, I think faculty are some of the main people that need to make those referrals. But unfortunately, I think a lot of faculty don't recognize. And if a student isn't going to automatically come forward and disclose that they have a need and advocate for themselves, they get missed and get lost. And we actually, last year in our health sciences, did our own book club with edition 1 of this book, trying to start with health sciences to get our faculty more aware, not only of resources available to some of our students, because unfortunately, I think there's a lot of students who are discouraged from taking health sciences courses because of a disability. And so we're trying to really increase that knowledge on campus, because I think that the referrals are way underutilized. Our DRPs, I mean, they're excellent and they do a great job when they get the referral, but somebody's got to tell them. And if the student's not going to advocate for themselves, we as faculty who encounter the students from day one need to be able to do that. So
That's a really great point, Stacy, about, educating and making sure that, all the people who are interfacing with those learners are aware of the resources.
Audrey? See, I don't know, Audrey.
I already spoke. Thank you.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm going through this list in reverse order. Do we have anyone else?
Dina, I was asked to unmute. I am Dina Leland from the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, and I'm a disability specialist there. And my main focus, among others, but my main focus is health sciences. And one of the things I do and the office does is we reach out to all of the health science departments and we give presentations specifically to the health science faculty and to the new students coming in, so that they can understand the role of the Disability Resource Center with the faculty. We help them understand how to best work with students who may have a disability, what is appropriate to have a conversation about, what might not be appropriate, how to refer students. Many faculty are concerned about insulting students if they make a referral to the DRC. So we tell them, it's just like referring to any other campus resource. We are a campus resource, just as the Writing Center might be, or Counseling and Psychological Services, or the Health Center. And it's often difficult for students to make a self-referral to the DRC because health science can be so competitive and they feel like they might be looked upon as less than. So we help them understand that. And we do get a lot of referrals after our presentations, self-referrals, and then we also get a lot of referrals from faculty, not only after our presentations, but throughout the semester.
So the idea, and Brian had mentioned in the comments in the chat section about a good referral process is key. And, Dina just mentioned the ability to sort of let people know what's out there, what you have out there, so people are aware of it. And Stacy had, sort of also talked about, some of the challenges of getting people to sort of know that somehow the disabilities office might be helpful to them. And anyone come up with a grand scheme or a good best way to kind of get the message out? Those presentations sound like a great opportunity. Other thoughts people have?
This is Maria Keller again. So I actually work with a disability services office, and I am the liaison to the medical school and the assigned disability specialist provider for them. So what I did the minute I became involved is trying to meet as many people as I could in the medical education programs. Establish new student orientations, annual student services presentations. Try to get involved and be as present as possible. So not only did they know who I was, that my name kind of became common practice, and try to associate that with access to disability services as if it were part of just your regular medical education experience. It's like there's this person that's already there in the beginning who checks in with us from time to time, who also the faculty and the support staff are aware of. My main contact is actually the director of academic success, and we work and collaborate for everything. She refers students, so anytime there's a student who's having a concern somewhere, they end up in the academic success umbrella talking to either a counselor or expressing concern. So we have a really good way of referring students to us, as well as having us refer to them. We try to be part of the original orientation as well, mainly to make sure that students don't feel that they have to come out as needing something with the School of Medicine before reaching out to our office if they wanted to keep that distance and explore options. Because some students will not explore options until it's dire, and we want to try to get to them before. So if we can prepare, that's our best approach, and the School of Medicine is on board in that approach as well. So they don't require that a referral come through the School of Medicine. The door is open for them to reach out directly.
That's fantastic. Great approach. Let's take one more. Megan?
Hi, I'm Megan Matthews, and I'm one of the access coordinators at DRS at University of Washington, Seattle, and just transitioned into the role overseeing health sciences. So Audrey, thanks so much for the kind compliments. That was really encouraging to hear. But I was going to say, for our office, I feel like a lot of departments know about us, but one of the things that I've seen, particularly with health sciences that was just mentioned, is making sure information about us is provided in the admissions materials, in the orientation materials, when students are first getting connected with programs and getting all the information, and just making sure that they're aware of what we do and who we are. And one of the things that I'm starting to do this year, it's been a little challenging being in a remote setting, but showing up to orientation, showing up to trainings that they have for faculty, and just doing presentations on how to even recommend us to students, and kind of using that sandwich approach that you may have heard of before, of not just assuming a student has a disability or asking them point blank, but providing other resources to support offices on campus, and having our office be part of it. And I think the other key is knowing who your person is or your contact is, because then if you are referring, having a name to mention, or even being able to send an email directly to me to connect with a student, is really helpful. But I do agree that we can only do so much. At the end of the day, the student still has to take it upon themselves to be willing to disclose or to come connect with us and meet. But I have found that a lot of the students who get connected with our office are told about us early on when they get into the program, and it's talked about in a normalized way by faculty, by their advisors, by their mentors, as just a great resource to even just do a consult with us. It doesn't mean they have to get accommodations right away. But I found that really helpful. And I think the more that DRS offices can get out in front of faculty and advisors and department chairs and do those presentations, it really helps them feel more comfortable in talking about who we are and what we do, and they understand it better, which I think in turn serves our students better too.
Great, some fantastic ideas, and there's a few other ones on the chat. I'd encourage you guys, if you have a chance, to look at the chat discussion as well. But that's great. Thank you all. I will say the one in my work in student affairs, that it echoes so much of what you guys have said, that there, for many people, there is a stigma about going to see someone about disabilities. And the closest analogy I can give to it is that, you know, there's sometimes a stigma about financial aid. And the way I look at it is that if you have questions about how you're paying for medical school, or you don't know how it's going to be 3 years from now, or you have unexpected expenses or something else comes up, you want to talk to someone who knows money and who just knows the logistics and can kind of help you think aloud about it. And that's what a disability resource professional is, if you're struggling in any of these specific ways. And so to kind of normalize it that way, that anyone can go and see that person, you may have the need for it. So thank you all very much. Some great ideas. Should we move on to question 3?
Yeah, Joe, what a great discussion we're having here tonight. So question 3, when a student with a disability experiences academic challenges, the DRP must evaluate whether accommodations are addressing the disability-related barriers faced by the student. At the same time, it is important to recognize that providing appropriate accommodations does not guarantee academic success.
So in addition to appropriate accommodations, what other offices and programs are available on your campus to further support a student's academic success? You guys have already mentioned a few of them that you've had interactions with, and we've even heard the words learning specialist a few times today already. So, but feel free to raise your hand and share. What are some offices, programs that are on your campus that you have found can really help support a student? How about we start with Barb Statfield?
Hi, I'm listening to all these big schools, and I'm from the northwest corner of Illinois in a small community college. So it's interesting to hear from larger schools, but in the resources, I'm a one-person office, and so some of the things that we have outside of our office is our Success Center in and of itself offers tutoring. And we actually, for our nursing program, have specific study classes for specific classes that we see students having difficulty in. We also have a TRIO program, federally funded program, that I will often refer students to provide them some additional support. We have a couple of financial programs with a low or a high poverty rate in the area that we live in. So we have a couple of financial programs that also assist our students. And then outside of our college, we have like the Department of Rehabilitative Services and any kind of independent services, state-run services. So I feel like we have, for as small of a school as we are, we have some pretty good resources.
Barb, for a one-person shop, you got to know a lot of people and are working very hard for your students, I'll tell you. It's impressive. Kara?
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes, Kara, we can hear you.
Okay, great. I'm really enjoying listening and learning from you all today. I work at the Mayo Clinic College of Medicine and Science, and so not too far from you, Barb. And that's in Rochester, Minnesota. And I collaborate and work really closely with our academic success advisors. The academic success advisors are the staff in our department who coordinate tutors, and they really focus on overall learner well-being. So there's some overlap in our work, but their services complement what we can afford, or I should say for what we offer in disability services.
That's fantastic, thank you. And do we have, my screen just froze for a second, let's see.
Kelly Cano?
Hi, can everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
Awesome. Hi, my name is Kelly Cano. I'm the Health Science Center accommodations excuse me, I'm the accommodation specialist at the University of New Mexico, and I work specifically with, I should say, solely with students that are taking programs or in programs that are on our health sciences. And one thing that's really great resource for us is very similar to the woman who was just speaking before me. We have student success coordinators, and we have student success coordinators for, I believe, every program that we do have on our North Campus in health sciences, and they are such a great resource for our students. And recently, this spring semester, we've been collaborating and doing like what we were talking about in the previous question, having our department do presentations to let them know that I'm their resource, the student's resource. If they ever want to come by and just see what we have to offer, that they're welcome to email me. Right now with the virtual platform, it's pretty much all email and Zoom, but of course, letting them know when we do get back to normal, where my office is at and things like that. And those student success coordinators have so much more to offer to that. I believe that both of us working together really create like a great just collaboration for our students.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Kelly. Maybe we'll take one more. Lisa?
Oh. Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yep,
Yeah.
you're great, Lisa.
Thank you. I'm Lisa Dico, and I am a learning specialist at the University of Florida. And I did want to mention an office that hadn't really been mentioned yet. Within our campus, within the Dean of Students office, who is home to a You Matter, We Care initiative at the university, there's a very small but mighty group of staff members known as the care team. And they're central to sort of a first stop connector for students who we say are in crisis or don't know where to go at all. And often we refer back and forth. I think everyone experiences the notion that when a student's in crisis, they're probably not doing well academically, and conversely, when they're in academic crisis, they're probably not doing well personally either. So we have a lot of interaction in that sense. And that is also the team that provides oversight to the medical petition process. And there is very much connection there within our office, the Disability Resource Center. We present information to students in our Disability Resource Center a few times a semester at a particular point in time where deadlines are coming up to drop a course before the end of the semester. And so we have that special connection there. I'm sure some other campuses may as well, but I did want to share that input.
That's fantastic. So, and is that a student-led group?
It is not.
No.
It is not a student-led group. They do have student ambassadors that do some of their outreach and program, and very much a student organization from the leadership and peer support. But the office is primarily full-time staff as part of the Dean of Students office.
That's great. Thank you, Lisa. Why don't we, in the interest of getting through some of the questions, let's go on to question 4. So institutions are responsible for making internal complaint and grievance procedures easily available and accessible to students.
So what should be included in this procedure, and when might it be used by a student with a disability?
Any thoughts or people willing to share how on your campus you're able to make this information available for students? We can start with Megan.
Sorry, can you all hear me?
Yep.
I need to have it out in front of me because I'm going to butcher it. But basically, we include in our access plan, we call them access planning meetings, where we sit down with the student and discuss everything. So in the packet of information they get, we always include a handout that's a complaint resolution form, which basically just tells them if you ever have a complaint you want to file because you felt like your accommodations weren't met, your rights were violated in any way, then we give them information for things like ombuds, the ADA coordinator, OCR, our office, and we kind of just explain, here are the steps to it. You can always start with us, but there's other resources as well. And then additionally, when we are providing, say, a no to a student because their request is being denied, we always send them a reconsideration process, which says, if you feel like you want to file an appeal, here's the steps. And so we outline it for them in writing. We give them, here's how many days you have, here's what the process looks like. So we spell it out for them and include the link that goes to our website where that's listed for them. So that's part of our process that we do it. One is when we initially meet with them, and then anytime we give them a no, or we're going to do something different, if there's pushback with that, we just always include that information as well. And it includes who they will be meeting with, who it goes to next. So in our situation, it would go up to our director, and then from there, what's the next level up, and lets them know what to expect for a timeline for each step.
Great. So you have it out there and a lot of clarity about what the process is, and at multiple points. Maria?
Megan.
No, the next one I was going to call on is Maria.
Okay.
Okay, so it's very similar. Can you guys
Go
hear
ahead,
me?
Maria.
Okay. The process is similar. It's almost, we do the intake, we provide the resources, and we talk about what happens if something does not work out. Our grievance process is directly stated on our website, but more specifically, because of the sensitivity and how many medical students, and I work with PhD students as well, there's a lot of peer relationships in there that can turn into professional relationships, and professional relationships that can later turn on to peer relationships. So we have a really good contact with the Ombuds office. So that's usually a good place for students who want to discuss their grievances go to, because they want to start there, having an impartial, completely confidential conversation. And we work as a team to help them navigate the resources on campus. And I mean, of course, there's, on our grievance process, we have everything from the Ombuds office to different student services directors to how to file an OCR complaint. But we want to provide them the opportunity to have that confidential conversation, even if they want to step away from our office first to go through the Ombuds, so they have full control of the process.
That's fantastic. So, Megan had outlined sort of the process of notifying at the beginning and then letters. Maria, you guys do something similar, but you also sort of alert people to this sort of within the campus, but independent ear, who can then turn into a voice, the Ombuds office. And it sounds like you may have had some good success with that. That's
Should
great.
we continue to question 5, Joe?
Yeah, let's move on. Actually, okay, perfect.
So let's continue. To effectively support students, DRP should be fully aware of the school's policies on academic standing.
What are your institutions or your individual programs' policies on academic probation, suspension, and dismissal? We can even expand that a little bit to what has been your interaction with your institutions or individual programs' policies on academic probation, suspension, or dismissal in that process. Audrey?
Hi, this is Audrey again at the University of Washington, physician assistant program.
Thanks.
We have a pretty clear procedure that happens that the students become aware of in orientation week when we publish the student handbook, and then have a quiz and review in person with the students, the handbook. And so there's a couple of reasons a student might be placed on academic warning or academic probation. And they tend to go into the categories of either academic challenge, like they're not performing academically, or professionalism, if they're doing things either in the classroom or in clinic that are unprofessional. And so for either one, there's a process of evaluating the student, letting the student know that that we're noticing some problems, working with them to try and build a plan to improve what, if it's behavior or academics, to improve that. And then as far as academics go, there's a clear line. If they score at a certain level, then they're automatically put onto academic warning, which is not a permanent mark. It's clear to students. The student passes the quarter and moves on to the next quarter. And then as far as the professionalism goes, we have policies in place that require the behavior to be noticed, that the student, we talk with the student, we try to come up with a plan for improvement. We wait, we see if it's been improved. We have another follow-up discussion, and this all needs to be documented. And then if the student is still not improving their professional behavior, then it goes to the Student Progress Committee. And in both cases, academics or professionalism, the student goes to the Student Progress Committee for review. And it's actually very rare that we have a student that goes in from academic warning into academic probation, but that definitely would go through an official vote by the Student Progress Committee. And our committee is made up of site directors at our campuses, faculty, both clinical and didactic. And then we have certain staff members on that are non-voting members that just bring information. As an academic coach for our program, I am one of the members, non-voting members of the SPC. But that's all outlined so the students become aware, and then we actually have meetings where we talk with the students to help them become even more aware of this whole flow and process. I'm not sure that we've made that information clearly available to our Disability Resources for Students office, so that would be interesting to look into.
The theme, though, of getting it out there, making it clear so people know what it is, because sometimes these read like, 18th century constitutional language in some of the policies that I've read in some handbooks. So that the clearer, the simpler, the more straightforward, it sort of helps the student know kind of what the process is. That's great, and the fact that you're able to sit on one of the committees is also good. Terry?
Yeah, more of a question is that I am aware of the policies, and the different programs have policies regarding probation, suspension, and dismissal. But my question is it common with others that as the student disability officer of not knowing when this has happened, I don't find out about a probation, a suspension, or dismissal until the student contacts me and tells me that this has happened? Is that common in other places?
Yeah, let's put that out to the group. Anyone want to comment on that? Common that the disability resource professional may be the last to know. Let's see. Christine?
Yeah, I'm the director of disability services at ICON. And sometimes I joke that disability services is often the last to know. This comes up when students take a scholarly year, they go for a degree at another school, they go out on a medical leave, and also if there's some kind of academic or professionalism difficulty. So the two ways that I usually find out, if a student contacts me directly, or sometimes what'll happen is in the process of going before the committees and going through the process, they will raise with the committee that they have a disability and that they have not yet registered with the disability office. And then sometimes I get contacted by the Dean of Student Affairs. And then the question becomes kind of, where are they in the process? What was the issue? Is the disability a potential factor in the decision making? And you know, me kind of getting inserted into the process to help make decisions about where we go, how we go forward. So I was kind of curious along the same lines, if other people get called in at that late juncture when a student is already in the process of going before a committee for dismissal, and then they raise the issue of disability.
This is Cindy at Rutgers. That's exactly what my comment was going to be. That's when we get notified. A lot of times the student is already at the point where they're in academic or professionalism disability issues. And that is when they decide it's time to disclose a disability. And I work with several schools, medical, dental, and other health sciences professional schools. And the different schools all have a different way of handling those types of things. So it's very interesting how the different schools approach it. But a lot of times that's the point where disability services will learn of a student's difficulty.
Let's ask Megan. Let's see, Megan Seamers. I don't know if I can get you unmuted. I'm sorry, Megan, I wasn't able to do that. Is there anyone else we didn't call on here? I think this is a big topic that's come up before. We addressed it a little bit in the chapter as well. This phenomenon that sometimes happens when someone is under academic or professionalism review of then using that's kind of the linchpin to get them to disclose a disability. And I think our thoughts is that you take this as a fresh new case. You do the appropriate evaluation. You kind of often what we do from a disability perspective is now and moving forward, and then it really is kind of up to the committee to sort of see where this fits in and how they judge and view the student's total experience. But the disclosures, and I will say, having sat on a committee, that there's I've had some faculty who like roll their eyes when they hear about a sort of a late noted disability, as though it's like a bad movie with plot point at the very end where there was no antecedent preface to it. But in these cases, I will say, if you go back and look at the students' prior record, in my experience, they often had manifestation of a cognitive disorder or a psychological disability that really kind of went unknown and unseen. So yeah, I think this is a big area, and we cover this in future webinars as well.
Right.
Why don't we move on to Nichole? All right, so question 6, the Office for Civil Rights within the U.S. Department oversees education institutions' compliance with various civil rights laws. Through OCR, students can file civil rights complaints fairly easily without payments or fees.
So if a student files an OCR complaint, what process might you expect for resolution of the complaint? And what documentation might a DRP be required to provide to the OCR when a complaint about disability discrimination is being investigated?
So as you guys think about this question, just if you've had experience with OCR or just your knowledge of the OCR process, what are kind of the key things that a DRP might have to provide? Usually in an OCR complaint, a university counsel kind of takes over. This is a big deal. This is essentially the precursor to a federal lawsuit, right? So when that happens, the counsel's office that kind of is the kind of a key player here. And what experiences have people had, or what do you know about what you might have to be able to provide? Brian said in the chat, they asked us for all records. And I think that's in many ways the key thing, which is all records, documentation, timeline, requests, rationales, anything that's available. Really, the University Council needs all of that information to be able to sort of understand the school's thought process during all of this, and then to be able to sort of work with the Office of Civil Rights and whether this is going to be a negotiated thing, whether this is going to be one of the many different paths an OCR complaint can take. But, you know, good documentation that you're able to then share. And sometimes it requires like going back to your calendar and finding out when the initial appointment was and things like that. But the ability to get as much of that information so that the council is able to sort of understand kind of the school's process and thinking.
Should we move on, Joe, in the interest of time?
Yeah, let's do that. I just realized the time. I saw one other note, but let's see. All right, go ahead, Nichole.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground in this first meeting of the Equal Access Book Club. So there's going to be a meeting every month through November, covering each of the remaining chapters. So you might have even gotten to us from today, from this website here. Feel free to just jot down the Guidebook Club as the suffix for the bit.ly address. On this website, you can register for future sessions, and you can also see the facilitators for each chapter and the discussion questions to help guide you as you read through the chapters and prepare for the next book club meeting. More importantly, you can use these questions if you decide to have your own equal access book club on your campus or with your colleagues, like Stacy had mentioned in her comment earlier.
You can also get a copy of the new edition through the Springer Publishers website with the discount code found on the registration page. And we do want to remind you that proceeds from the sale of this edition, like the last edition, go to the Coalition for Disability Access and Health Science Education. And I know that the proceeds go there because I never received a check and I co-wrote this chapter in both. So the proceeds are going somewhere, and I think it's the Coalition.
We just really want to express our gratitude for this wonderful discussion that you all participated in. We realize that it's getting late and you've had a lot of opportunity to field the questions. So on the next slide, we're going to provide you with some resources that might be able to get some of your questions that may be remaining answered.
So here are some of those resources that might be helpful. The AAMC, these webinars that were done in conjunction with the Coalition, the UCSF faculty training videos on the UCSF site, and the Docs with Disabilities podcasts are fantastic ways of exploring many of the aspects of things we've talked about. We also want to remind you that we have a lot of topics to cover in 2021 in this Equal Access Book Club series. Next month, we cover Chapter 2, Disability Law and the Process for Determining Whether a Student Has a Disability, and that will be facilitated by Lisa Meeks and Charlotte O'Connor. Future topics include technical standards, the process for determining accommodations
in the lab, didactic and clinical settings, the process of requesting accommodations on exams, certification, licensing, and board exams.
Assistive technology and electronic access in the digital age, professionalism in communicating about disabilities and accommodations, working through some of these complex scenarios.
And debunking myths and addressing legitimate concerns. And finally, do's and don'ts for working with a student with disabilities.
So we look forward to seeing you and hearing from you in the next month's Equal Access Book Club, Friday, February 19th at 4 o'clock. And make sure to register as spots are limited.
So we will see you all then, and take care. And thank you so much for joining us this afternoon or evening.